Alright guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. So we have a new hardest fight in the game. Very fun. I think that this is probably a very well-designed fight. So I figured we could do a video here. We'll go ahead and take a look at the stats of this new super powerful Omega Shenron boss fight. He's definitely the hardest boss in the game. Now, previously, I definitely would have said without a shadow of a doubt the previous hardest fight in the game was actually SHENRON from the same event, the Birth of the Shadow Dragon event. Now, what made SHENRON so devastating was just his final phase. These AoE attacks right here, these 480,000 AoE attacks, are devastating to, I want to say lesser characters, but it's more so... It's not even really just lesser characters that it's devastating to, right? But it's more so a specific type of character, like defense oriented units. There are some characters who, I don't know, Dokkan Fest Turles, right, who does have some minor build-up for his defense, but then pretty much a start-to-turn defense is what he's rocking, right? But this kind of just cuts out, like, a lot of shenanigans with a lot of weaker characters can kind of get just, like, bullied by these AoEs, which definitely made this feel like the strongest fight. Even stronger than, maybe the Cell Max fight, who just hits way harder, right? Like, what is this guy's damage? Oh, this guy, he did hit a little bit harder than I was thinking. He's at 1.344, but then he has his defensive debuff as well. Like, that's just the nasty combo that he has right there, right? Which is pretty devastating. So, let's take a look at the stats of the new Omega. And then I do have some other big bosses pulled up we can reference. This is the big Cell Max fight right here. Here he is, the big phase of Cell Max. We have the Metal Cooler Core up right here we could take a look at. And then I did also pull up Dragon Ball Super Broly, who Broly's raw numbers are way lesser than a lot of these other big bosses. But that's because Broly has the dodge canceling ability, which is just devastating, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the 8th anniversary. Well, this is 8th anniversary Shenron. What do I call this guy? Tanabata Omega? Maybe, right? Okay, so his opening phase is interesting. Oh, really? This is how this works, huh? He just has two different versions of this super attack that he can do. So I've noticed this. Sometimes Omega will stun you with his opening phase super, and other times he will seal you. It doesn't actually matter. They have literally the same effect, because the stun or the seal, it's going to last for one rotation on whichever character he hits him with. So again, there's no difference to a stun or a seal. And it's only going to have effect if he does it immediately in slot 1, right? So he will stun or seal your character before they get a chance to attack, which, some characters, that could limit them stacking up. AGL Carnival Goku is one of the strongest characters in the game for this fight. And it's like, if you're doing maybe like the final trump card mission, or, some mission or some challenge run you want to do, that Carnival Goku being like a slot 1, turn 1 defensive character would be very important, but you put him in slot 1 where he might need to go, and then Omega might stun or seal him, so then that can keep him from stacking up, right? So, this is... If you guys recall, again, you could please pull up the evidence of this. Go pull up the footage, man. I was saying they can make a new most challenging fight, and one of the things they could do is take inspiration from the Collection of Epic Battles event and give the boss status effects like this. This can be interesting, right? They don't need to just be like, all right, 8th anniversary Omega Shenron fight, he does 2 million damage on his super attacks, right? Which I believe, like, in terms of raw damage, like just like an attack stat on a boss super attack, dude, he's at 1.855. That is the hardest hitting boss super attack right there, right? But, like, they don't need to drop a boss that does 2.5 to make the boss the most threatening and most difficult boss in the game. And I'm glad they did not go that route with this guy either. Now, this can be a nuisance to where they could even upgrade for the next boss. If this stun or seal was like a 3-turn or like a 5-turn or something like that, because in the Collection of Epic Battles, they stun you, the Gohan and the Perfect Cell, they stun you for 8 turns, I believe, right? It's an 8-turn stun, which essentially removes the character from the fight. I think that this could be really healthy for the game, adding these types of mechanics. There are a few characters, rather than just being like, okay, 2.5 million damage super attacks, right? Like that's my argument there. But there's a few characters who remove negative debuffs. Bardock and Gine are one. They could get an easy at some point. Yajirobe is another character with a Senzu Bean active skill, right? Who can remove debuffs like this. So it would just employ more strategy into these big fights. I like this, but I would like them to take this a step further. Rather than damage for the next big boss, you know, let them hit you with this for 3 turns or 5 turns or something like that to really kind of take that character out of the fight for a little while. I think that would be good. That would be really good. So he does 800k. Okay, I'm just curious. Let's take a look at some of these other. So, Int Sin. Wow, he's at 924 actually, turn 1. There's a big difference, though. This is a Ki Blast super attack, which you can dodge. All of Omega's supers here are all other super attacks. They're all defined as other. So there's no, you know, nullifications that will work on these. All nullifications in the game at this moment are tied to specific super attack types, right? I guess besides the counters, you know, like LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta could counter all these, for example. Okay. So there's that. Oh, he does increase his defense when he supers as well. For the most part, defense, it probably isn't the biggest deal ever. But I mean, you know, maybe that'll cut off a little bit of damage. Remember that crits ignore defense anyway, right? So it's like if a boss is, I don't know, oh my god, he's got 1 billion defense, but you just crit and it doesn't even matter at all, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. All right, so there's the stats for his first phase. Then we get to his second phase. Also, here's his special abilities. So he has a 7% chance to dodge. This is actually good, because the slower you go through this opening fight, the better. That's why, I mean, him stunning and sealing, it can be annoying if he gets a particular type of character, but it also could be good. Like LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku, you know, who's one of the top 5 best characters for this fight. If he gets stunned or sealed, that's a huge amount of damage he would just decimate this Sin with that you don't have to worry about. And same with this dodging. This dodging is actually helpful to you. Look at this. Reduce damage from non-int characters by 40%. Okay. So, int characters really... wow, okay. It actually is a really good idea to not use int characters for this fight, then. Because, again, the slower you're going through this guy, the better it is. Wow, that's very interesting. Okay. So he could dodge. He cancels dodge. This actually helps, too. I know people want to be like, oh, yeah, dodge is out of here. Like, dude, this is actually good, because a lot of build-up characters, like AGL Carnival Goku, 23rd World Tournament Goku, in LR Carnival Kid Gohan, I evaluate them as, you know, dodge is like the strongest asset they could have. But, you know, it does clash a little bit with the fact that they need to get hit to build up. All this does is actually maximize my strategies, where AGL Carnival Goku now can get hit 1 million times in turn 1, build up, and then he can still dodge the big boss supers in like turn 2 and 3 against STR Omega and then in Omega. So it's actually just perfect. In my experience so far in this event, this makes it easier. The fact that he disables dodge in the first turn, because it just makes it a joke. All my build-up characters get built up, and then they could just bob and weave right towards the end. This would be very, very damaging for some characters, though. The UI Goku characters, for example, this is rough. Right, the 5th anniversary Blue Fusions, it's rough. I mean, if they get caught early on, you know, there's not much you could do the first couple of turns, right? It's just, that's what the 5th anniversary Blue Fusions here, you know, you just need to get strong luck. They have such broken, busted abilities. I know they could definitely work in here. I got to do videos on them soon in this event, because, like, they're guaranteed dodge, which still works against STR Omega and in Omega. They're very powerful active skills. Everything they could do, like, they could still be super good. But at the start, they're definitely a risk right there. All right, so then STR Omega. So his first AoE does 400k. And then if he does a second AoE, does 360. Is that what that means? I don't know. Does he often do multiple AoEs? I feel like in my mind's eye, I'm only seeing this guy do 1 AoE per turn. Maybe I could review the footage. I mean, we're going to do a lot of showcases upcoming. But, I mean, this is huge right here, right? Let's look at Sin. So, Sin, I mean, his was 420. It did not. This guy's AoE. I'm not sure. Like, is this felt like the AoE to me? Like, I don't know. Like is the actual AoE number damage right there? Because the thing with this Sin right here, so his attack stat was 420,000, but his AoE it hit way weaker. So this is the AoE number we're looking at right here then. Because, yeah, like, his AoEs were not scary. Like, all those, like, STR characters you'd run, like, the STR coolers and shit like that, this guy's AoE would do double-digit damage to the coolers before they attack. So, I believe that's the number. So this is the AoE number we're looking at, I believe. But the difference is, what is this guy? So this guy still does a Ki Blast Super, by the way, which you can, again, nullify pretty easily. 1.1. This guy is doing essentially the same damage, but there's a huge difference here, right? Whereas this guy has no super attack effect. Omega is giving himself 50% attack for the turn. So what I've found is it's very, very RNG based. I mean, the entire game's RNG, right? But if he supers before he does the AoE, he gets a 50% buff tacked onto this. And this guy starts to hit really hard. And this guy has incredible type coverage too, because remember, the hardest phase is int here. So it's like you want to bring your physical characters, and then this guy is really going to be cutting you up. So that's what makes this phase challenging, is this right here is what really makes him dirty, filthy, nasty. This 50% attack buff right there. And he does heal HP as well. Again, I would probably say, if anything, this probably makes the fight a bit easier, because the longer fights go on, typically, like, the easier they can get. I mean, perhaps if you're using, like, weaker characters, you know, it's like you could really be fighting again. Like, it's only a matter of time until he catches us and kills us or something like that. But when you're using strong characters, the longer the fight's going on, the stronger you're getting, and the easier the boss is becoming, right? So, him recovering HP, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'd have to go review the footage if this is actually like, oh my god, he healed. No, we're in trouble. Like, maybe once. I don't know. If anything, though, this gives this guy more health you have to tear through, which makes it easier. And I've noticed he heals 6 million HP per turn. So, I mean, he is healing. Like, it's a huge chunk of health that this guy does heal. All right. So then we move on to the final phase right here. Int Omega. 75 million HP. 8th Anniversary Sin was at 71 million. Cell Max is at 60 million. Metal Cooler Core is at 58 million. And then Dragon Ball Super Broly's at 50 million. So we can see that he has the most HP of any boss. I mean, him and the Sin. Sin was actually pretty close, surprisingly. Then, of course, this dude, he's got the multiple AoEs, which, you know, you're going to see 3 AoEs from this guy basically every single turn, and he's doing 500k on those, and this guy was doing 480 on his, so it's a little bit of a damage increase, okay. And then he lowers defense by 40%, that's the same thing that this guy did. This guy was at 1.3, this guy was at 1.4. You know, it is funny, this guy, he feels way harder, like, he really does. Than the 8th Anniversary Sin. This guy feels so much more challenging, and it's just it seems like they just really did minor number increases. 70% damage reduction. This guy has 75% damage reduction. What's the damage reduction on all these guys? You're at 70. You're at 70. You're at 70. Okay, so they have given this guy a lot of the biggest numbers, but this is just so devastating, man. 1.4 million damage. And the 40% debuff, I mean, that is just so nuts. Let's look at the other big boss supers. So Cell Max, again, is at 1.85, okay? Metal Cooler Core, he's at 1.5, but it's deceptive because he's also giving himself 30% attack for the turn, right? So this, it's hitting harder than just the 1.5. And then Broly, his are far weaker at this point. I mean, he's closing in on 2 years old. 1.2, but he can double super. And then on top of him double supering, he also still cancels dodge, which none of the other big bosses do, you know, in their sort of big boss phase. I mean, I've already explained to this point in this video how I actually feel like Tech Omega canceling dodge, for the most part, actually makes this fight easier. I think that this fight would probably be harder, because, like, the characters, it's just some of the best, like 23rd World Tournament Goku, AGL Carnival Goku, in Carnival Kid Gohan, those are probably some of the best characters for this fight. Carnival Kid Gohan is a killer in this fight, man. I got to get a video out for him right away, especially since he's coming to Global very soon. But yeah, there's the stats. I mean, he doesn't do anything super special here. He can't be hit by any of this bullshit. And that's it. Okay, so he could super again after 5 counts, or like 5 attacks. 5 attacks for you. Cell Max is 6 attacks. The core is 8 attacks, and he doesn't attack that much. So the core, you could actually see him go turns without super attacking. And then Broly is also 5. Yeah, and this is the thing. This is why, like, so Omega, if he supers the very first attack, it's like then he's going to do 50 attacks the rest of the turn. You know, he's attacking 10 times per turn. He's going to do the rest of his 800 attacks. And then remember, his cooldown is only 5. So then you're very likely to see his opening attack on the next turn be a super attack as well. Right? So that's very tricky. Yeah, this guy, Carnival LR Omega Shenron, I think for us using him, his design is a little bit flawed. But as a boss, he's one of the more fun bosses. This guy, to me, is definitely the most fun boss we've had since Cell Max was introduced into the game. This guy was really challenging, this 8th anniversary Omega. So let me know what you guys think of his stats. Definitely going to be very tricky for a lot of powerful tech characters. But there is one 2020 tech character who I think will be able to perform pretty good. So let me know what you guys think of the stats of Carnival Tanabata Omega Shenron, toughest boss in the game. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.